Now we're going to come straight into the road sports, Tiff. This is going to get even more exciting the way the weather's currently going, and obviously with the slightly less grippy tyres, this could make for a very interesting one.
Yeah, because we're here mainly following the Academy cars, which are all new to me, these Caterhams. Of course, these road sports are the Academy cars from last year. They can use the same car with a bit more power, a bit more grip. I've actually got the two champions. We're first and third on the grid, so we'll see how they're getting on with their road sport. How are you enjoying this extra bit of grip?
It's amazing. It's just had a little bit of rain though, so I'm not sure how the grip will be, but yeah, the car feels great compared to last year.
Where are you in the championship at the moment?
I'm currently second by a couple of points, so it's going to be an intense weekend.
Right, well, you have the other Academy winner is third on the grid, so we're going quick to say hello. We still with me. We've got Tom Cockerell. Sorry, you only came second last year. Sorry. I've had to miss out the second because he wasn't an Academy winner, but Tom, you're another Academy winner from last year, enjoying this step up?
Absolutely loving it. With the two groups together, there's more fast people about. It's hard work, but we're here to have fun and that's what we're doing.
And you really enjoyed the Academy last year?
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. I would recommend it to absolutely anybody.
Right, well have a great race.
Thank you.
Don't touch you too much. We'll come back now quickly because round here you go. You came second in the Academy. We'll still say hello, now we have time. I left you out. You didn't win your championship last year. You got beaten by one of these two. Which one beat you?
I didn't. Taylor beat me. I didn't even win a race last year, but I've won 3 of the last 4 this year. So hoping to keep up that run.
So you've rather enjoyed the extra power and grip. It suits your driving more than the Academy cars, do you think?
I think just learning the racecraft took me a little bit more time than you know, these guys. Taylor was on it from the very beginning, but it took me a little bit more time to get up to speed.
Right, well, have a great race.
Thank you.
This is going to be an absolutely fantastic battle right from the start, Tiff, because you've got these 3 brilliant drivers here, O'Flanagan, Bush on the front row, Cockerell and West on the second row, and it's been so unpredictable this season already. It's going to be very interesting to see, especially with the changing conditions, who's going to have the best of the grip.
Yeah, we need a bit of drizzle, because I mean Brands actually it's a very hard track to overtake on. You know, really it's a single line track, and the guy in front knows how to defend. You know, it's tight line of Druids. You know, the stop the cut back through paddock, and Clearway is always the place you can dive up the inside. So with these Caterhams so equal, that's what makes the racing so exciting.
Now, the progression all the way through the ladder from the Academy up to the 7 Championship UK, it's a tough mission for these drivers, especially when they've come in as novices. And obviously here in Road Sport, we've got about 90% of the drivers out of Academy come straight up to this. But it's a really exciting challenge because the drivers know each other, but they're all still learning how to get a little bit more out of their cars.
They're only second-year racers, aren't they? Still novices. There's still got nappies on, really, haven't they?
Well, it's fantastic stuff. We're really excited about what the Road Sport drivers will give us. Scott, back to you. You're in for a real treat.
I'm sure I am. Thank you, Jake and Tiff. It's always nice to see Tiff Adele, you know, when you throw down to him, it's quite a special moment. I'll tell you what is quite ominous, though. Look at those black clouds overhead. That might well be a bit of a characteristic for this second race of the day, which is the first for the Caterham Roadsport Championship. So, as Jake and Tiff mentioned, these are the drivers who are fresh out of last year's Academy and are making their step up into their second proper season of racing after having finished their respective Academy seasons. Now, before, they would have raced in their separate Academy groups, both green and white, both of which for this year's class of 2021 for the Academy we'll see later on this afternoon. But these drivers, pretty much as they mentioned, 90% of them have come out of both groups, and so this is the first proper time under championship conditions this year where they will have raced against each other. So each drivers in both groups racing on one grid together. So these drivers will then usually, if they stay as a group together, and there's usually quite a fast group of drivers all the way through, they will go usually up together through 270R, then through 310Rs, and then up into the 7 Championship UK towards the top of the tree. And they will then tend to move their way up the ladder. And then some people do use Caterham racing as a way to possibly move into GT racing or other points. And it's interesting how I was mentioning that there are a few, talking about to Adam Bettridge from Caterham yesterday, he was talking about how it's interesting they've got some carters coming through now going to Caterham. So it is interesting that Caterham has been chosen now as a possible route into sports cars, and given the fact that they do teach a lot, I've always dubbed them as the Formula Ford of sports car racing because they've got lots of similarities, not just the Ford engine, but the fact they're small, quite skinny tyres, quite skittish and nervous to drive, but they can teach you a lot in terms of car control and racecraft, and particularly car setup. it is very much one of those situations where it is looking as well as expected in terms of them trying to move up through the order. So I just see Graham McDonald's cars being recovered just off the circuit now, just by one of our recovery teams. Whilst that's happening, the cars for the Caterham Roadsport Championship are making their way onto the grid for their first of 2 races here this weekend. So whilst they're lining up, we can give you a bit run through the grid and also give you a run through of what we can expect from the championship contenders towards the front. So the grid is as follows then. After what was a very tricky qualifying session for some, but all of our main contenders are towards the front, which means we should be in for quite a cracking race. So the front row of the grid is car number 11, Taylor O'Flanagan, who is second in the championship. And he is on pole position for this one alongside Hugo Bush. Now Hugo's been on quite a run so far. As you mentioned to Tiff in the assembly area there, he's won 3 out of the last 4 races. He took a double at Knockhill and then won the first race at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And from that it's really helped him catapult him back into the championship fight, particularly being 5th in points now, but I'm sure with drop scores into play, he'll be a little closer and a little higher up in the standings, maybe around somewhere around the top 3 in many cases. So, Taylor O'Flanagan starts on pole. Alongside him on the second row of the grid is Hugo Bush. As you said, Hugo has had that run of form. Then we've got Tom Cockrell, who is the other of the 2 Caterham Academy champions from last year. Taylor O'Flanagan was white group champion, Tom Cockrell was ring group champion, and Tom will start 3rd on the grid. Alongside him on the second row of the grid is Adam West, having one of his best qualifying results of the season. Row 3 is the Dominic Mansberger, the black and green car to the left of the shot. Alongside him is James Hall, again an improved qualifying position for him. Is then Peter Mott, who had an off in qualifying, managed to give himself a good time to be put 7th on the grid alongside Alex Vincent in car number 17. Christopher Broome and Wyn Jones round out the top 10 on the 5th row of the grid, followed by Andy Lund and Kevin Turner on the 6th row of the grid in cars 2 and 27. Then it's the 38 of Ryan Lovett, the 49 of Steve Lancaster, who round up on the 7th row of the grid. Then it's the 8th row of the grid for Nick Timpson in car number 4 and the 57 of Ian Hapgood. Then it's followed by Sam Gibbons in car number 3, Peter Lawson in car 26, followed by Ron Mounsey and Mike Hilton to round out the top 20 runners. Then it's Chris Griffith and Marcus Eels on the 11th row of the grid, 21st and 22nd, from Adrian Mariadis and Michael Koo on the 12th row of the grid in 24th position. Then Andrew Berg and Simon Arnold round out our 26 car entry for this weekend's Caterham Roadsport action. So the Caterham's making their way around. These, as Steve has mentioned, are pretty much the same cars that ran out of the Academy last year, only with a couple of upgraded parts. But predominantly they do run a different tyre. They run a Academy specific tyre in the Academy Championship, but then in the Road Sports they go to a faster tyre and also a little bit of tweaks on the brakes as well. And that does make these cars at least a second of that quicker in many cases due to just the new rubber. It's incredible how much of a difference new tyres can make. In terms of the championship battle, in terms of who's done what throughout the season, we've had wins for all but one of the top 5 drivers in points. We've had wins for Dominic Mansberger, the points leader. Only his first of the season came at the 2nd Silverstone Grand Prix circuits race just a few weeks ago. Taylor O'Flanagan has won 1 race so far, and that was right at the beginning in a soaking wet Donington Park for their first race of the year. We then had a win for Tom Cockrell in the 2nd race that weekend at Donington, and then since then we've had also the other 3 winners have been, of course, Hugo Bush, who took that double at Knockhill, and that win in the first race at Silverstone Grand Prix. So the cars form up then 2 by 2 here on the circuit. You can see there is rain increasing now, so this should be quite interesting. The tyres they run are essentially an all-weather tyre, so it should be too much trouble in terms of coping with the conditions, but it's whether or not they can keep these cars on the road, given how it might get quite slick and treacherous out there quite quickly, remains to be seen. So, all set to get underway for the first Caterham Roadsport Championship race of the weekend, sponsored by Mission Motorsport. The lights are out, we're underway as they make the sprint down towards Paddock Hill. Then it's a cranking start from pole position from the inside of the front row from Taylor O'Flanagan. Tom Cockrell's moving up alongside Hugo Bush as they head into the right-hander and down the hill. It's also battle of a 4th and 5th as Tom Cockrell slithering around the outside with an incredible start. I think that's possibly James Hall. It is James Hall from 6th on the grid. He's up to 3rd. An amazing start for him. He's up to 2nd. He's past Hugo Bush. What a start for Adam West for James Hall that was in car number 98. A rocket-propelled start in these slick conditions. He's up to 2nd place, past one on the front row men, and he might even go for Taylor O'Flanagan at this rate. There he is, car number 98, the almost zebra livery cars. He gets very sideways on the exit. Don't throw your hard work away now, James. And these conditions, of course, are going to change pretty quickly given the fact that there is rain in the air and it may well make the track as slick as possible. So, up the inside, it's 3 abreast. Dominic Mansberger, we know he's quick in the wet. He's going for up the inside. Dominic Mansberger's into the lead. Incredible stuff. Now then, what's interesting, the yellow flags are out. Now they've seen it, because that's interesting. Dominic Mansberger noticed that there was yellow flags and safety car boards were out, so he's immediately backed off to try and get back those positions. I think he must have not realised that everyone was slowing up, and he dived up the inside. There's possibly the reason why we have the car off. That is, trying to see who that is. That's car number 72, I think. No, it's car number 12. It's car number 12 that's gone off the road. Is, look it up on my screen here for the grid. 12. Ron Mounts is off the road. So Ron Mounts, who started back in 19th, is now off there. Now, looks like there's someone off Paddock Hill Bend. I think, yes, there is someone off Paddock Hill Bend. So, unfortunately, we've lost one driver. And I can tell you who it is because we play the game called Spot the Car Going Tumbling Down the Timing Screen. And the car that's gone tumbling down, I'm afraid, is car number 5, which is Christopher Broome. So, Christopher, who had started back in... up in 9th on the grid, has unfortunately not made it further than Paddock Hill Bend this time. So what it has done, looking at the order after the end of that first lap, now that Dominic Mansberger has slotted back into the position he should be in after he caught the jump on everyone up at McLaren, is Taylor O'Flanagan leading the way on the safety car. It's then 2nd place for James Hall with a lightning getaway from 6th on the grid. 3rd is now Hugo Bush, 4th is Tom Cockrell, 5th is now Mansberger, 6th is Adam West, 7th there, that is Gwyn Jones in the number 97 car. Red machine. There's the fantastic marshals and recovery teams doing a live snatch to grab Christopher Broome's car out of the gravel. Just hooking it up. And this will mean this is the paradox at the moment. We've just had a rain shower that's sprinkled the track with saturation, and now all of a sudden we've got bright sunshine. So looking out the window in terms of the conditions, it is bright sunshine, but there are huge dark clouds to one side hovering over Paddock Hill Bend. So I thought Spa had a microclimate. It looks very much like Brands Hatch has got one today as well. So there is the runyourfleet.com Jaguar XF Sport Brake safety car leading the pack around. Just finish off the rest of the top 10. It's Alex Vincent in 8th position. Peter Mott is now in 9th. And Andy Lund rounds out the top 10. And Nick Timpson in 11th place. Kevin Turner in 12th. Adrian Mariadis is 13th, ahead of the 49 of Steve Lancaster. And it's the 6 of Marcus Eels, followed by Mike Hilton. Michael Coos came up to 17th place. He started back in 24th, so a strong move from him up 7 spots from where he began. Andy Berg's up to 18th. Car 20s in 20th positions. Chris Griffith, he's met at 1 place from where he started. Car 51's dropped back a little bit. Simon Allen's come up a few spots. Also has 38 in 22nd position, and that is Brian Lover. He's dropped down, in fact. He was starting 13th on the grid, dropped down to 22nd, so not a great start for him. He's lost 9 places from where he originally came through. So this is another 20-minute race, as we have had previously. And the Roadsport cars making their way down towards 30s underneath the safety car. And look, just as we had that rain shower, it's now completely bright sunshine as if it never even happened. So I think we're going to get quite a lot of that today, which is rain, sunshine, on and off, which will make the track conditions incredibly unpredictable, because as a racing driver, you either want it fully wet or fully dry and not in between. Why is that? Because it means that as a driver and as a team, you know exactly which way you need to go on the setup. If it's fully dry, you go with a fully dry setup. If it's wet up, you have to go with a fully wet setup. If it's in between, some might say, well, just go in between with some of the settings, but it's not quite as simple as that, as some engineers and mechanics will tell you when it comes to setting up a race car. Sometimes it's a bit more finesse, a bit more fine-tuning than that, than just putting everything halfway between a wet and dry setup. That doesn't work, so they have to really put the work into make sure these cars can cope with the ever-changing conditions. And it also requires a pretty deft touch behind the wheel, because you can't just throw the car into corners in the slick conditions, because in some cases when it's fully wet or fully dry, you know exactly what the road's going to be like. When it's in between, when it's in that point, when it's intermediate, very slick, greasy conditions, you can approach a corner not knowing what the grip level is going to be, and then you go to the next corner and it's completely different. There could be more grip, less grip, or the same. But the fact is, in this sort of situation, when it keeps on changing, you just don't know, and that makes it, for some races and for some drivers, incredibly tricky to judge pace, to judge, you know, overtaking opportunities, how the car's performing. It's very, very difficult to do that when the weather can't make its mind up. So at the moment it's now gone to dry, and I suspect that there is any moisture on the circuit. It will probably dry out quite quickly, given the fact there is a bit of a breeze out there as well, which will certainly help. And what I think will certainly help as well is the fact I've just spotted that the Jaguar safety car, I think, has put its lights out. It should mean we should get racing underway for the second time today from a safety car restart. So Tim Glover, the safety car driver, is managed to pull away and allow Tanner Flanagan to back up the rest of the pack. He will then decide when to pull the pin and decide to get this race back underway with 13.5 minutes on the clock still to go. Let's back up a little bit through Surtees, through McLaren, and to come back down the pit straight. I think we are set to get racing back underway as they head out to McLaren and down the pit straight for the first race back on the racing speeds. It's now in completely bright sunshine, or rain shower, never happened at all. So as they come back into paddock, it's Tanner Flanagan with a good restart. He's pulled away by almost a second from James Hall. He might have been caught on the hop by Hugo Bush, who was all over him on the run towards the hairpin at Druids. They turn their way out through the right-hander and now down the hill again. So goes the tail. They turn in through Graham Hill Bend once. 4th place for Dominic Mansberg against the conditions he would have favoured. He's quite a wet weather racer. To have to watch as Hugo Bush makes the move up the inside into Surtees to take 2nd place. Now he knows if he wants to get himself really back into the championship hunt and carry on this great form that he's been in with 3 wins out of the last 4 races, he needs to get onto Taylor Flanagan's tail right now. He needs to get himself in the mix there underneath his roll cage and really start to stay in the slipstream to try and pull away by the back. But he can't do it. He's got a great fight to James Hall all over him as they come into paddock. Right-hander down the hill. James Hall was looking for an undercut as they come back up Hellwood Hill towards Druids. So the 5th lap of racing, so it was the 6th lap of racing. We completed 5, and I think there was a bit of contact there. Saw a piece of bodywork, I think, flying off the back of Hugo Bush's car. James Hall getting a bit impatient here, and he's thrown himself straight into the mix with the leaders. So he's certainly pushing as hard as he dares to keep himself involved. He's right in the sandwich of arguably the top 4 strongest drivers in the championship, because you've then got Flanagan and Bush ahead of him. He's in the middle. Then you've got Mansberger and Tom Cockrell right behind him. James Hall's all over the place as Dominic Mansberger locks up and runs wide. He almost went into the back of James Hall there, and as a result it's lost in momentum and given possibly Tom Cockrell a free pass up into 4th place, which it almost has. They're side by side down the straight. Tom Cockrell slots in, but now James Hall's managed to pull away from them, as have the top 2 as they come down towards Paddock Hill Bend, round the outside, taking that high wide handsome line into the right-hander down the hill through Hellwood Hill and towards Druids again. James Hall was really having a look around there for 2nd place if he could, but Hugo Bush is giving Taylor Flanagan much more things to worry about here as they come out of Druids. And Mansberger and Cockrell not finished it. You can see there the green and black car of Dominic Mansberger still battling over Tom Cockrell. There they go, out of paddock, Graham Hill Bend. Cockrell has got up to 4th now. You can see here, Taylor Flanagan having to go defensive as they turn back into the left-hander through Surtees. Bush has got the classic tactic, the headlights on, just to try and distract Taylor a bit here. He'll sweep around from side to side where possible without compromising his toe, just to try and distract Taylor on the approach to paddock. But look at this, James Hall's on their tail, and getting a massive toe from all 3 of them is Tom Cockrell, the top 4 all together, down the pit straight once again. Cockrell sets a new fast lap of the race, 55.752. He was by far the quickest out of the top 4. He sailed onto the rear of this trio. Here comes Bush again. He thought, right, inside line doesn't work. I'll try the outside this time into Druids. But again, Flanagan throws the block, holds the car right to the inside line, and prevents a move from the 3-time winner for 2021 so far this season. James Hall just had a little peek there as he looked into Graham Hill Bend. He's staying on the tail. Mansberger's dropped off a little bit here in 5th position, but if he can try and get himself back involved, if these 4 continue to fight hard enough, there's a real chance. Now also watch for the cars behind, because you've got Gwyn Jones in the number 97, and he's bringing Adam West along with him. So we could be seeing a 7-car train for the lead and the podium places. We've still got just under half distance to go. Jake and Tiff said it was going to be a cracker, and it's certainly living up to it so far. Top 5 all together. Then it's West. It's Jones and West. Alex Vincent's up to 7th. So 8th, forgive me. Then it's Peter Mock and Andy Lund rounding up the top 10. They're quite spread out from about 8th place downwards. Quinn Jones has set the fastest lap of the race. He's in 6th on his own, so he will start to catch up to that top 5 and bring Adam West with him. Look at them all piling in together into Druids as Dominic Mansberger tries to steal back 4th place from Tom Cockrell, but the German decides he's going to try and get him back a few corners later as they turn into the Grenville bend. 8 laps in the books. They're on lap 9 here in this first Caterham Roadsport Championship race of the weekend here at Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit. These guys have been at it all season long. It's up the inside, goes Hugo Bush with a dive into McLaren. Big move up the inside from Hugo Bush. He's made it stick. So Hugo Bush with opportunities. We'll talk about opportunities. Look at James Hall. It's 4 abreast on the exit through Clark Curve. That shouldn't work, but somehow James Hall's hoodwinked them all. He's up into the lead of the race. They're side by side. Mansberger's 2 was onto the grass. They almost made contact. Sorry, Dominic, but that was never going to work up the inside. That was such a risky move from Dominic, and I'm not surprised that he backed off. James Hall loses the lead. It's now side by side between Tom Cockrell. He's got past all of them. He's now up the inside of Taylor O'Flanagan, side by side for the lead into Druids. James Hall's back for more in 3rd. Mansberger's gone up to 4th. And it's 5th position for Hugo Bush after for one moment he actually led the race, and then got shuffled out of the queue without a tow. And 6th place for Gwyn Jones, 7th place for Adam West, and there's still 8 minutes to go. Fantastic stuff from the Caterham Roadsport Championship. This is racing at its finest. Up through McLaren. Wait, all is just monster the rear end of Tom Cockrell's car as they turn back onto the straight. And somehow Taylor O'Flanagan is back into the lead. So Tom Cockrell, he will not fade from the lead here. His pace will not drop. He will not capitulate that easy. Down through Paddock Hill Bend again. Top 2 trying to break away once more. Look at the run that Hugo Bush has got though. In the grey and orange car up the inside of Dominic Mansberger for 4th. Oh, with his contact! Hugo Bush was way deep up the inside line. His contact with Mansberger. Now Gwyn Jones went wide in sympathy up at Druids. I don't know if there's damage which will possibly hinder them both. They've lost themselves out of the train. Up to 4th out of all of that has gone Adam West, so he's now up into the 1 spot out of the podium positions as the top 3 continue on. Now, Mansberger's carried on. It seems to be relatively unscathed. I don't know about Hugo Bush, but he might be back in here as again, just James Hall just nibbling away at the right rear wing of Tom Cockrell's car as they turn out of Clark Curve. Back onto the pit straight again with 7 minutes to go. End of lap 11. Further back, some battles further back on the pack. This is the 61 car, that's 81 car that's Adrian Mariadis. He's scrapping away with that's Ryan Lovett. Running wide there was Marcus Eels in car number 6. They were battling over 14th down to 16th position. We go back to our leaders. Still in the top 3 as it was. O'Flanagan, Cockrell and James Hall. This is definitely James Hall's best run of the season. James Hall coming to the weekend, 15 points, his best result. Trying to work this out now. His best result was scoring 15 points at Knock Hill, and that would have been 10th place. So incredibly, he's had a substantial jump in pace considering from the first half of the season. Where he's been keeping it, I've no idea. But James Hall is absolutely flying here at Brands Hatch, and making the most of it. He's on the back of Tom Cockrell, and it's totally unapologetic. He's got every right to be there. You know, regardless of the fight or not, if the pace is there, he'll go for it. The fastest lap of the race changed hands 3 times as fast as I can say it, because it was first Adam West, then Dominic Mansberger, then Gwyn Jones, just like that. So the fastest lap of the race is now held by Gwyn Jones, 55.088. It continues to get a little bit drier out there. In fact, we've now temperatures about 17 degrees, and the breeze we've got out there is certainly driving the track of any remaining moisture pretty quickly. Further back on this, our battles towards the mid-pack as they turn in through Paddock. I thought there was a car on the ground there up at Paddock Hill, but I think there was briefly, but it's back out again. So I thought I saw something on the screen there. As we go back to our leaders, James Hall is still trying to what's the issue here. He's still trying to find some potential avenue past Tom Cockrell. You see here the top 2 are the last year's Academy champions. It was the white group title for Taylor O'Flanagan, the green group title for Tom Cockrell. They're going toe-to-toe for the Roadsport honours. 3rd place for James Hall, but he was under prep from Adam West. Dominic Mansberg is back into play here. He's managed to catch up as Cockrell again puts himself into O'Flanagan's mirrors as I saw a flash of green there, so Mansberg is back in the mix. Back in green car, trying to put the pressure on Adam West here as they turn into Graham Hill Bend. Still Quinn Jones and also still Hugo Bush. So the contact he made with Mansberger hasn't rattled his car too much, and he's still got enough pace, it seems, to keep up with these guys in front and lap at a similar pace. His last lap was a 55.2, so ironically he was the fastest man out of all 7 cars in this lead group. So whatever contact they made, it must have been at a point where it wasn't going to affect them that much, if at all, pace-wise, which certainly helps out both of them. All closing back up in the slipstream here. Flanagan trying to escape on the 15th lap of racing here at Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. There's still one more of these races still to go for the tomorrow for the Caterham Roadsport Championship, but his first one's an absolute barnstorm. 3 3/4 minutes to go. Up the hill into Druids once more. Flanagan holding that inside line. It's Cockrell in second. James Hall, who could be on. Even if he finishes in 7th place, it will still be his best result of the season, but how much he would dearly love to get a podium. And the way he's driving, to be fair, he absolutely deserves it. Brilliant stuff for James Hall. He pretty much just got a lightning start and pulled away from almost everyone and got the lead briefly at one point. So he's done a great job. Behind him, Hugo Bush just slotted past Quinn Jones in 6th, and Peter slotting past him was Mansberger trying to make a move on Adam West. They're going to be side by side on the exit, just holding on. Or was there someone running wide in front there? I think it was, who was it? It might have been, it was Tom Cockrell. Tom Cockrell ran wide, and now he's at the rep from Sir James Hall down the outside into Paddock Hill Bend, side by side for 2nd and for 4th. Look at Adam West trying to defend Hugo from Dominic Mansberger round the outside, and remaining in front, going for 2nd is James Hall. Here goes Mansberger, could be 3 abreast. This won't work. They'll all make contact together. Oh, and they've both gone into the air. Mansberger goes up, round goes James Hall. Oh, his dreams of a podium have been absolutely shattered by contact at Druids, and it's all come to a crashing halt. Oh, that's such a shame for James Hall. He was in such great contention, but 3 to 1 was never going to go. And while Dominic Mansberg continues on, I think the one that got caught up in the instant battle there, I think, was Tom Cockrell, who just backed out of it. And unfortunately, it caught up both Mansberger by throwing his car up into the air, and James Hall also saw his car get a little bit airborne. Oh, poor James Hall, parked on the apex of the curve at Druids, trying to find a way to get back into the race, but that is such a shame. He would hopefully be back for more tomorrow, because he really does deserve a good result after all of that. What he has left is Taylor O'Flanagan with 2 minutes to go, pretty much unchallenged in the lead. He's now heading his way up towards Druids where the incident took place. So there'll be there's bits of bodywork down there, so they've got to be careful that drivers don't take the wide line, otherwise it could be a one-way ticket to a puncture if they're not careful. That's a real shame, though. It was such great racing up until that point. Just that little bit of miscalculation between the 3 drivers. Unfortunately, Mansberger, who's now dropped down to still 4th position, still carrying on despite the damage. But yeah, that is a real shame for James Hall. That was such a great race up until that point. So with a minute and a half to go, this is how it looks at the moment. Taylor O'Flanagan leads the way. Adam West up to 2nd place. Hugo Bush is now 3rd. Dominic Mansberger 4th. Tom Cockrell is 5th. Quinn Jones is 6th, and it's Alex Vincent 7th, and it's Peter Mott, Andy London, Steve Lancaster rounding out the top 10. What's intriguing here is Taylor O'Flanagan did a 56.1 last time by, but the 2 cars immediately behind him, Adam West and Hugo Bush, are on screen here. They did lap times that were at least 7/10 of a lap quicker, so of a second quicker. And I think we're on the second to last lap here, so we're going to get this and one more lap. Either this is going to be a grandstand finish to a race that has been thrills a minute from start to from the very beginning, or it's possibly a false dawn. Has something under control more than it looks like. There's Ian Hapgood, his silver and purple car. He's battling away with Steve Art with Simon Arnold in car number 51. They're having a scrap over 24th and 25th position. Might be the back of there. Actually, no, it was him with the 26 car, which is Peter Lawson, who's going to be 23rd. So, on to the last lap here at Brands Hatch. And Taylor O'Flanagan has managed to get the gap. He's picked up his pace a bit more, but he's still lost a couple of minutes to the cars behind. So, he put a 55.6 in for O'Flanagan compared to a 55.3, a personal best for Adam West, and 55.1 for Hugo Bush. So, still lapping quicker than Taylor. As they come through Graham Hill Bend for the last time, as the clock ticks down to 0. looks as though it's pretty much going to be Taylor O'Flanagan on course for a second win of the season. He hadn't finished this season at all this season, lower than 4th in the field, as Hugo Bush is still pushing to the end. He might possibly have a run for second place if he plays his cards right. Slide there from Adam West. But after what's been a crazy and incredible first race for the Caterham Roadsport Championship, the victory is going to go for the second time this year to Taylor O'Flanagan for the first race at Brands. Actually crosses the line, O'Flanagan wins at Brands in race number 1. It's second for Adam West and third for Hugo Bush. What was a brilliant race, and side by side from a line. That was 4th, 5th and 6th. That was Mansberger, Cockrell and Jones. And Mansberger beat Cockrell to a line by 46 1,000ths of a second to just hold on to 4th place from Cockrell in 5th. Quinn Jones picks up 6th position. He was a mere 0.114 of a second back. And it's Vincent 7th place, Peter Marty's 8th, Andy Lund is 9th, and Ryan Lovett put in a fighting drive to get himself up into 10th position. Nick Timpson's back in 11th. The rest of the field comes through, but that was quite a frantic, typical, incredible Caterham race from start to finish. It's a shame we did have the bit points of contact that we did, particularly the incident which saw Mansberger involved and particularly pushed James Hall down the order. It's a real shame because James was looking so good for a potential podium there. But they'll be back tomorrow to try and do it all again for their second race. Amazing stuff by Caterham. We'll have a bit of a break with Caterham's for Formula Ford coming up next, so there'll be a break for all our drivers on, all our viewers on Caterham stream. And they will be back a little bit later on for our third Caterham race of the day, which is going to be for the Caterham 7 270R Championship later this afternoon after the Formula Fords. So, but for those who are watching on the BRSTC stream, you will carry on, and once we've gone through the results, we'll be able to hand you over to Jake in Park Fairmate in Assembly to have a chat to some of our Formula 4 drivers in a moment. So excellent stuff involved. Here's the result then. Taylor O'Flanagan, after a wild first Caterham Roadsport Championship race, wins by it says by half a second, but that can't be quite right. So Taylor O'Flanagan wins. Adam West is in second place, and Hugo Bush in third. Then it was a photo finish for third, fourth and fifth as they came across the line. It was then Mansberger fourth, Cockrell fifth, Jones in sixth, and it's Vincent, Mott, Lund and Lovett rounding up the top 10. Nick Timpson's 11th. From Lancaster, Mountsie, Eels, Berg, Mariadis, Hilton, Turner, Gibbons and Hall rounding out the top 20. And then moving down the order, we have 21st place for the 20 of Chris Griffith, and Michael Koo, Ian Hapgood and Peter Lawson, with Simon Auld and Christopher Broom, the two retirements that we had. And James Hall, for the record, did come through back in 20th position. So what could have been? But if you can recover from tomorrow, that was certainly one to look forward to.